So Pete Van Dyke of Drought Proof Texas came, and then this is the story of it. We had high hopes, but it just didn't go the way that we wanted it to. All right, so here's the story. Pete Van Dyke from Drought Proof Texas came yesterday. And we had the original plan of renting an excavator for about 3 days and him digging some, probably like 2, maybe 3 swales on the front north part of our property. And as we started to walk through this kind of forested area, and as he was looking through everything, this is just what happened.
So when we walk to the back pasture, because that's kind of like our path, is like we'll go from here with the kids and the dogs and we'll walk back to where the pond is. And in the summer months, probably even now when you walk you can see it, but they're just these chasms and cracks. So that feels like the most bleeding area out of everything that we walk through. Up here, we really don't have any busted open earth.
I think
so that's what it feels like, but I don't know that that's necessarily the best choice to spend time and energy.
Well, yeah, like
almost 100% open to whatever is going to be best for the long-term use of this property.
Okay. What we have a contact in Houston that it's not a lot of trees, but she has like a lot of these mulberry cuttings and banana trees. She just wants to give us all this stuff. And I feel like I just kind of put them all over the place. Yeah. I didn't really know where to put everything. Yeah. So to me, swales on this northern part seem like they would be helpful, at least mainly because it would allow me to know where to put them.
Where the water line is, where you can just see the erosion coming through. But
there's not a ton that we can do to save their, we're just higher.
No, I'm not talking about that part. I'm talking about when you're walking through, like at the front of our property, away from Angie's. Like if you're at the property line, you're walking away from Angie's, there's just a large space where you can see the, almost like, you know how when the water's running quickly and it kind of creates these almost like little swales there, just like tiny little paths of that. Sure, yeah, that.
Yeah.
But that's what it is, kind of in a patch over there.
We also want to get pigs here in the next couple of months. So my thought is like, how do pigs do with new swales?
Do they
yeah, they'll dig them. They'll dig them up.
So unfortunately, the plan to have swales on the front part of our property, which is where we kind of planned it to always be, because we already have irrigation going there on our main water line. We have spigots to be able to tie off of and do irrigation to these swales. After we've been here for a year, we really realized that we took up the very first swale that was in the original plan. And I'm really glad that we did it, because now we kind of know what we like here. And if we would have had a swale where our garden is, then the kids would have had just this breakup of where they want to play. And I would have said like, no, you can't go play there because we have all these swales and these fruit trees. So it kind of just would have broken things up. And now we have this really nice open area that the kids just have so much fun running around and riding their bikes that we don't want to mess that up. And so going back into the trees, it ended up being that we would have had to clear trees to dig the swales just to plant more production trees. It just doesn't make sense. You don't want to cut down a forested area to create a forest. Now, what we can still do is we can do some kind of like tree basins to where the water kind of goes and sits in some of these dug in basins with some mini berms, like these U-shaped berms on the downhill side. So we still can do some cool stuff. I think it's just going to be slightly different, a different kind of permaculture, which we're still going to be doing swales on the back part of our property. So hang with us on this video. Just means on the front part of the property, we're going to have to do some different stuff in terms of how to hold the rainwater higher on the property, because it's so forested. It's already perfect for what we want, which is having this forest privacy. These trees shield us from the road. It actually shields us from sight, so they don't, we don't see the road and the road doesn't see us. It shields us from sound because of any kind of like cars that drive down our gravel main county road. You see all these houses on our main county road, and they're just dirty out there. And this forested area really takes on a lot of that dirt. For how much dirt we have, it would be so much more if we cut down some of these trees in order to just do the swales and plant. It just doesn't make sense. Okay, so you're saying that maybe the back part of this may not be really worthy to do the swales and to put all of that.
In this part.
Yeah.
I kind of agree.
Yeah, we want to keep the privacy instead of, trying to like bulldoze our way through the trees or something like that.
Yeah.
Leave the forest. And then you can do forest enrichment, like some of those trees that you want to plant. Instead of doing like a whole terrace that has to be connected.
Divots.
A little basin with a little berm.
Yep.
And then you just spread those out, basically where there's light.
What kind of trees would you plant?
I like the ones you were just talking about, the mulberries. And
Okay.
you could plant the American persimmons, which should grow great out here.
Okay.
You can plant different types of oaks.
You think pecan would do good?
Pecan,
I know.
I don't know.
We have high hope for pecan, but we're not seeing.
What is it, chestnut?
Yeah, I would definitely look at the chestnuts.
Okay, more than pecan, okay.
I mean, pecans too, they're probably equally able to grow out here, especially if you've got irrigation.
If you were to say, hey, if you have the budget for 3 days, I would much rather do it back here.
Okay.
I think it works out for our family a little bit better.
Sure.
And it's just, now,
Yeah, that's easy. We should make that happen.
now I guess we wouldn't be able to manage it because we don't have water back here.
You might be better than you think.
Okay. But I do think that
It wouldn't be that hard to get water back here either.
Running from, and that's why
you're talking about like PEX or just hooking up a water hose?
Yeah, like putting more water line in.
Okay. So then we started turning towards, okay, well, instead of doing in the front, let's do it in the back, which is really where we've always been most excited about having swales. It just was never part of the plan to do that right away. So we started working our way to the back and with really high hopes that this is what we were going to do. We were going to go ahead and kind of assess and then possibly start doing the survey and laying out the swale lines for the back part of our property, which is actually it's a fairly steep hill, and here would be our forest, and then here's our house. So on the back part of the property, this faces south. This is south. So the sun has great exposure on this south-facing slope. Perfect for swales and water harvesting terraces on contour. Really, really good. It would even help us to help with the pond. But then Pete, in his wisdom, started saying, well, let's hold on.
If you're not careful, like the forest will just like swallow everything.
Yes.
So you kind of have to like push
Bring
it
it
back.
home.
Every couple of years you kind of have to do a little bit of maintenance just to make sure that your whole property doesn't become forest. Like some of these could be trimmed up and make a nicer sort of like park-like area.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
We
That's
trim in
the
absolutely
bottom.
what I would do.
Yeah,
Like
like
6
some of these
feet up.
cedar trees basically.
Yep.
Some of these oaks, like this one over here,
Oh, I have my
Yep.
favorite oaks.
you probably don't want to like do too much. Like I wouldn't want to like clear out all of these smaller brush from underneath this tree, because once the light gets into that tree on the bark, then it starts to deteriorate.
I've realized that when you clear underneath some of these oaks,
Yeah,
you would think that they start doing.
they start declining.
Yes.
So if you wanted to clear in there, like I would just like sort of like make a doorway,
Yeah.
Cool.
and then like once you get inside of there, you can clear out on the inside.
Oh.
So it's kind of like the opposite of what you would think. Like you would just make an area on the inside that still kind of keeps the protection of the tree from on the outside,
Mm-hmm.
but also allows you to get in there and enjoy that area Yeah, so the idea is maintain the canopy. Don't just clear out everything, and
Yep.
so that a bunch of light starts hitting the bark.
Gotcha. So Pete, in his wisdom, was able to kind of see what we've done so far and to say, hey, management that you can do with this back part of the property before you do the swales. Because once you do the swales, it doesn't mean that you're still going to be able to manage it. So Pete suggested that we first start with mowing the back part of the property and the front property, but really getting the entire property covered with cover crop seeds. So instead of spending our money right now on the swales, we should take that money and spend it more on growing some cover crops first. Because then whenever we start digging the swales, all of that earth that we'll be using as the berm will be more fertile. Because right now it's just a lot of dead old grass, so there's not any fertility there. But whenever the excavator takes it and digs the ditch out and then makes the berm, that's like making a raised garden bed on the backside. So that you want some of that dirt to be a little bit more fertile. That saves you money by not having to put so much compost down on that berm.
Because like a lot of this stuff that's just sort of like dried and oxidized, like these plants aren't photosynthesizing. You know, they're just sort of oxidizing where they're standing.
That's great.
So they're not really doing anything. But if you get some green stuff growing,
Then that'll help
helps.
some of the erosion.
yeah, and then if you get a big stand of cover crops, you might mow it, you know, in the spring.
Okay.
Or send in the animals, whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Well, we definitely want animals back here.
Is it too late for us if we were to mow now and we don't have cover crop to throw down? Would that be a stupid idea?
No.
It would still be beneficial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're getting all of that material onto the ground, and then, in the spring, and then in the spring, it opens up so that more light can get into the crown of the plant.
Okay.
And then they're able to grow and spread.
All right.
So like as it is, like the plants, like this over here, like this is one of your bunch grasses that didn't go to seed this year. But like they just start rotting and dying in the middle of the plant. So like,
so it's no good anyways.
yeah, so you want to get all that stuff on the ground, and then once the light can get down here, that plant will shoot up new growth and spread.
Oh, yeah, dude.
It's just rotting in the middle.
Wow.
And it's just because it's shaded,
Yeah.
you know, and all that thatch is there and the light can't get to the new growth. Either grazing or mowing at least once a year, just to like sort of get all that stuff down. And that'll help you maintain the mesquites too.
Yes.
You know, if you knock them down and then they come back in the spring and they're like this big basically, that's still mowable.
Exactly. Yeah, I've gone over.
But once they get this big,
Yeah.
then you have to cut them down again. You're kind of managing the forest too.
And then things started to get real, and the three of us started having some legit conversations on how we should move forward and the first steps and getting that back part of the property back in shape.
We want this place to work. We want all this like cracks in places where we need to, hey, you just need to mow. That's a really simple solution that we can do that doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, and seed.
But the idea is like, if swales is like, yeah, you know, you should have put those in like a year ago, then let's get on that. If you're like, nah, you could wait 5 years and it'd be no big deal. I just want to do our very best by this property, because I think whether we're here for 20 years or we're here for 2 more, I think we're just supposed to learn everything we're supposed to learn here, and I don't want to waste that. So if swales is a good thing for us to do so that we can move on some other projects, let's do it.
I would probably focus on like getting rid of those dirt piles, cleaning everything up, and like just getting everything under management.
Yep.
You know,
Okay.
and like in this area back here,
Mowing.
like we want to be ready. Like we want to have that water line extended maybe,
Okay.
and then once we planted the swales, we'd be like, boom, irrigation.
And yes, we want swales, but there really is just so much sweat equity that we can do before we do that. And with some of those funds, we would be able to pay off our car loan a little bit faster. And then that would just expedite the full vision that we want to do for this property. And it really doesn't hurt us that much. It actually helps us if we delay for a few months installing the swales and we go ahead and take care of some forest management and some of the mowing that needs to get done.
Exactly. And at the same time, you're like cycling nutrients. And whenever we do build swales, the soil is a little bit better.
Okay.
And like,
this is what I need.
you're still preparing.
Yes. So take some time to do what's going to make the swales most successful.
You definitely want to like start managing the forest.
Okay.
And like get that chainsaw fired up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, take down whatever's dead. I'd be trimming up some of these cedars.
Okay.
Like I wouldn't want, the only trees that I would probably say that you could cut down without worrying about it is the mesquites and the cedars.
Okay.
And you know, the smaller ones, whatever. But any bigger ones, like these bigger cedars here, like I would trim underneath those because that will help them grow taller.
Yeah.
They're like growing tall and wide. You cut some of those branches off and they'll grow a little bit faster up.
So I like some of those cool looking tall cedars.
Yeah.
They're neat looking.
Okay,
Yeah.
so would you do it like 4 or 5 feet high? Like if you're
I would
cleaning
walk,
up a...
anything I can
Even
like
higher?
walk under
So
is
like
perfect.
6. Okay.
Yeah.
Which, hey, it's just telling Kelly, Pete says to cut down some of the mesquites, not all of them, but some, which means that we need to get the smoker.
I like it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
We can do
Got a
some-
lot of
They'll
rabbits.
come
down.
right back.
Some mesquite brisket. Pete did not say that we should never have swales. He did not say that this property shouldn't, like this is not a good property for swales. He actually said like, no, this is a really good property that is screaming for swales. Bo and Kelly, you just have a lot of work to do before we get to that point. And he said that there is still hope for swales and how that can help the pond project.
If we're getting impatient, even though we're not getting impatient because we don't have $9 grand,
I live in impatience.
but like having a pond where our kids can fish, is that just like, Bo, you just gotta chill out and...
Yeah, I'd say be patient.
All right.
All right. Do you still think we need to do swales before that pond?
I think that would help.
Okay.
You know, because there's obviously, during big rain events,
Yes.
that little pond overflows significantly.
Yes.
And then because of the soils you have here, doing that work uphill, soaking some water into the ground, you know, water comes and infiltrates the ground and keeps it moist so that you're having less evaporation from your pond. You know, like it might be evaporating, but it's also like getting fed subterranean, you know, through groundwater.
So, Kelly, what I'm hearing more about what Pete's saying is,
Get pigs.
yes, is work on our management time, like before we
Pete,
Do you
it's like
agree?
you know our life.
Yeah.
Work on your management, Brothertons.
need to dedicate time for doing some stuff
So
before
stop
we...
trying to do and start trying to prep.
Lots of prep work.
Yeah.
And then, you know, things will come naturally. You definitely don't want to like overstep and then trip up, you know?
Yeah, y'all should be mowing your own property. Like, we should do that.
Yeah,
It's just not as sexy as digging a pond.
Just to wrap it up, that this video is it's a lot of what permaculture says about going slow and observing. And just being patient. That's not what I like to do. I like to go fast. When we bought this property, I wanted to move on it right away, and then I wanted to go ahead and do the swales right away. And I wanted to do so many things with this property. And it's just reminding me and humbling me that you cannot speed this up. You have to take it one project at a time and work on your priorities. You have to work from in zones. It really, because whenever you try to jump over the permaculture zones, not growing zones in terms of USDA growing zones. I'm talking about permaculture zones where zone 0 is basically your house. Zone 1 is the immediate spot around your house. Then zone 2 is after that. Then there's zone 3 and all the way to zone 5. And zone 5 is like the untouched wildlife that you really don't have to do anything with it. And zone 4 is those things that are farther away that you really don't see but maybe once a week. And what we're like a pond. I mean, really, that's where a zone 4 would be. Although we would love to be at our pond every single day, just how the distance between where we live and where that pond is, it's not, we're going too fast. It doesn't make sense for us to jump so far ahead to be able to do swales and the pond when we really should be backing up and managing the land first. So there was a lot of good things. This is why I always recommend definitely getting a permaculture designer is so valuable. So if you can find a good one in your area, definitely do that. I'll put Pete's information, Drought Proof Texas, down below if you want to contact him. But just letting you know that the swales are coming. I'm sort of bummed. I really wanted to get swales here in the 30 videos in 30 days. We still are going to be doing all of the rainwater harvesting. That's good. If we don't get pigs in the 30 videos, it's going to be soon after that. It's a bummer, but this is just how it is. You take a hit and you just got to keep on moving. Okay, we will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for hanging with us. Kelly, say thank you to everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Kelly's back there working. I have to go pick up our kids, which is going to be a 3-hour drive. Kelly gets to hang out by herself and drink coffee.
And work.
You're going to work, I know, but it's still working is fun. See y'all tomorrow.